And now we'll move to our final speaker of today, and also the newest member to ITA's Explorers and Developers Group. We have Sally Norcross-Webb from Cornish Tin. She's the founder and CEO. And Sally will be telling us a bit more about the projects for exploration also around Cornwall. So hand over to you, Sally.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for inviting us, Cornish Tin. I'm mindful of the time. I'm going to try to stick to 15 minutes. And I'm not going to say anything about the tin market because you all know all about that. So I'm going to concentrate on telling you about our projects. Board of two, myself, I founded the company in 2017. And my co-director is Clive Newell, who is our chairman. Clive is well known in the mining world. I'm sure many of you know Clive. He co-founded First Quantum Minerals and built it from a startup to the top 6 global copper company it is today. He's taking an incredibly personal and constant interest in Cornish Tin. In fact, he lives only about 15 minutes from the core sheds. So most days he's down at the core sheds, getting his hands dirty, looking at the core, interacting with the geology team and generally leading the geological effort, which is fantastic for us. He's got incredible depth of experience in opening mines, developing mines in First Quantum, and he'll bring that development magic to Cornish Tin without a doubt. Highlights so far. Well, we were honoured to receive the Discovery of the Year award at the UK Mining Conference in Cornwall in June this year. Mainly off the back of some very interesting tin results that we had at that time, but also in terms of our lithium results. We've got a very significant land package. I'll tell you more about that in a minute. But at the bottom, you see the point that we were shortlisted for the Discovery of the Year award at Resourcing Tomorrow, just this week in London. I don't know whether anyone else was at the dinner, but I can tell you that we won Discovery of the Year awards yesterday. Thank you very much. Absolutely stunned to receive this because it was incredibly strong competition and a panel of 16 independent judges. So we take it as a vote of confidence, not just for us, but for Cornwall. We're incredibly supportive of our colleagues at Cornish Metals. We all want each other to succeed. We're very open and collaborative, and I think Cornwall is really emerging as a potential new superpower for clean energy minerals, and the world is waking up and taking notice of that. It's a first-tier jurisdiction. Everything about it is extremely favourable. The only thing that's difficult is the mineral rights situation. More anon. This is some of our team. From the start, we've been incredibly committed to achieving net zero at production. We've stood for green mining right from the start. This is the team, or some of them, just a tree planting session in a locality. We're regularly meeting with our local residents. We engage with them constantly. Many of the local residents have actually become shareholders in Cornish Tin because in addition to our private placings, we've had 2 Crowdcube raises. So for a minimum ticket of about £15, we're getting a steadily increasing army in Cornwall who's strongly in support of Cornish Tin and mining generally, which is really very favourable for us. Now the land position, as you can see here, is now a total of 14% of the Cornish land mass. When I founded the company in 2017, I was working as a mining and finance lawyer, and I was still working full time, but around the edges of that job, I was putting together the mineral rights package to enable us to make a start. It took me 5 years, because in the UK, you cannot go and get details of who owns the mineral rights. They are split from the surface. So, and there's no compulsory cadastral system. So you can't check it out. You have to track them down, do detective work, go along with your documents, negotiate the deal, get them to sign. It took a long time. But I did it. I became addicted to it in the end. And We started with 1,500 acres in strategic places of mineral rights. We've now got 14% of Cornwall. The black lines you see to the east and the west are actually grants from the Crown Estate, the royal family, King Charles III, for gold and silver, sovereign metals. I don't think we're going to become gold and silver miners, but it was a strategic move really to ensure that we had security of tenure for all minerals within those envelopes. Within that, we have just under 17,000 acres of mineral rights that we fully intend to develop. All our drilling so far has been in our western area, as you see, and that's where our flagship Great Wheal Vore project is situated. This is basically what we've drilled so far. Since January 2022, when we raised our first money to see us through for the first drill programme, I should say we've raised £4.9 million so far. 90% of it has gone underground. Our first campaign was in 2022, and you'll see here that the collar locations in orange are the holes we drilled in 22. We had some very significant tin discoveries, including a new tin lode at that time, which is actually named after our exploration manager, Ryan Hitchens, who is here today. It's the Hitchens lode, and it's one of the very best discoveries that we've made. You can see there that there's a lilac shape to the bottom left-hand corner. That's the outcrop of the Tregonning granite. Important just to notice that we're on the flanks of the Tregonning granite, which is highly enriched in lithium. And the blue line is the Tregonning initial area, which constrains our initial lithium-focused area. But to the east of that, you can see, I hope you can see, the diagrams of the historic workings of these mines, Wheal Vore to the north and Wheal Metal to the south. Now, in their day, they were known as the richest tin and copper mines, mainly tin mines in the world, by grade. Their average production grade was around 3.5% tin, and they peaked at over 5.5% tin. Very famous mines. They closed not through any lack of resource, but due to a 20-year mineral rights dispute. Basically, the trustee in charge of the mine that had gone into administration just took it over illegally and ran it illegally for 20 years until he lost the case and had to hand it back. Very Poldark-esque, really. But that's all been sorted out. And the area you see is now our mineral rights area, and we've drilled 9,300 metres so far. Jumping straight to one of the highlights of this year's campaign, our geology team had the concept that beneath the incredibly rich Wheal Vore historic workings, there might be a new mineralised area, a systematic distance from the granite contact, as you can see there, as the lilac shape slopes down. In the top cross section is the stoping for Wheal Vore, the Wheal Vore main lode. And that formed at an optimal position from the granite, distance from the granite, at an earlier stage in the hydrothermal system than what we see in the bottom cross section. So you're looking at the same thing, but just the top cross section is at an earlier stage in the hydrothermal system. So the Vore lode formed in an optimal zone, which we've called the Goldilocks zone because it's neither too hot nor too cold, when you had the hot magmatic fluids coming up from the granite and the cold meteoric fluids coming down. And just at the right distance, it precipitated the cassiterite. Now, bear in mind, this was production grade 3.5% in its day, that top cross section. So we put in hole 4 this year, and you see at the bottom cross section there, hole 4, because we hoped that there would be a further mineralised zone down plunge from the Carleen lode, which you can see there on the bottom cross section to the left of your screen. And sure enough, exactly where we hoped we would find it, you can see here in cross section hole 4, we intercepted a mineralised interval of around 155 metres wide, which in itself contained 9 separate high-grade tin intercepts. There were another of other very important tin intercepts in that hole as well. And in fact, at 843 metres downhole depth, we then intercepted, at the very bottom of the hole, the G5 lithium-enriched granite. So we've demonstrated not only significant tin discoveries in that hole, but also we've demonstrated that the lithium fields, and I won't dwell on that because we're in a tin seminar, but the lithium field, the G5 lithium fields, we've demonstrated that that continues 1.2 kilometres from west to east. This is an overview of our tin results to date, and we have still the peak grade of 6.28%, which we've discovered, but some other very significant grades as well. We've now discovered a total of 28 high-grade tin targets and 8 new tin lodes, grades like 2.37%, and similar grades are quite common. I don't want to delve too much into that table, otherwise I'll be speaking for many minutes. Now, this is just an assumed grade. This is just to give a bit of global context. Given what we've discovered so far, we think it's reasonable to assume a grade of 1.6% tin. If that were to prove true, we would then be third in the world if we were producing now by grade. We do have a potential timeline for getting to production. We're targeting that for our lithium assets, which I'll explain a little more about in a minute, that would be in production by 2030, and the tin asset by 2032. There's a lot to do to get there, but we think that's feasible. Now, I know this is about tin, but the lithium side of this business is so important that I'm just going to spend a very few minutes explaining what that's all about. To mine hard rock lithium in Cornwall, you must have G5 granite. It's very rare. Of all the granite outcrop in Cornwall, only 1.4% is G5 granite, and 54% of that underlies much of our project area. So we're in a very good location. The purple shapes that you see to the east are where our third-party lithium projects are, and the larger purple shapes, like to the west there on the coast, is our own Tregoning granite. Well, it's not ours, but we have the mineral rights to it. We're seeing 3 styles of mineralisation in this lithium field, and it's very high grade. For the UK, this is very high grade. So at the top there, you see projecting horizontally into the overburden, the country rock, Killis, 2 exogranitic sheets. There are lots of them, but these particular 2 we intercepted, and the grades are peaking at 1.33% Li2O. A little lower at the top of the sloping granite, the roof complex of the granite, again highly enriched in lithium with grades of up to pretty much 1% lithium. And then a massive bulk lithium beneath, which is very large. But the grades, we think, are probably going to be capable of improvement because we also have additional mineral rights areas to the south. So we've, in terms of where we are, in terms of modelling, obviously we're very early stage. On an in-house basis, and we've carefully, modelled the capex and, modelled the costs. We think that if you included all our conceptual targets that we've discovered and our pipeline targets, one is looking at the moment of around 7 million tonnes at an assumed grade of 1.6% tin, which results in an NPV discounted at 8% of around 300 million. That's on a tin price of $31,000 a tonne, which, given our timeline, we think is reasonable. To put it in context, the lithium model, which is now on version 22, it's much easier to measure the lithium because it's everywhere, except where it's disrupted by a certain form of dike, which are called elvins locally. But it's homogeneous mineralogy, it's homogeneous geology. and we've demonstrated that it continues about 4 kilometres from our existing drilling down to the coast. So, taking into account our additional mineral rights areas on the lithium, we're looking at potential tonnage of the combined area of around 800 million tonnes. Now, that's significant globally. It will put us in competition with the very largest European projects, such as Sinovac, that's got 708 million tonnes. And the NPV, discounted at 8% on just the initial Tregonning area, is just under $700 million. So, enough of lithium. Returning to the tin, this is our area to the east, near Bodmin Moor. It's similar in background to the Great Wheel of Ore, in that this, in fact, had about 24 former producing tin mines, very high grade. In fact, they were ranked third in Cornwall for output in their day. They closed because the First World War broke out. They closed in 1914, but there was some limited exploration in the 1960s, which demonstrated that there were still high grades in the ground, and discovered a peak grade of 2.7% tin. This is a really lovely historic mine plan of 1901, which our geology team have now digitised. And you'll see that even then they were putting out the message to their investors: unwrought ground, 1 mile long, practically inexhaustible, is written at the bottom. Well, obviously it's not inexhaustible, but there's a great deal left. So in 2023, our geology team digitised every available historic mine plan we could possibly find, and we've now got a very good understanding of the ore body. And what you're seeing here is a digital representation of that mine plan that I just showed you. And we've identified a potential panel there, down plunge of Phoenix United, which is estimated at about 350,000 tonnes at 2% tin. That's just one of the multiple tin targets that we have now designed at Phoenix. So there's the team. We've got 6 young, talented geologists. They've done wonders. We've shown ourselves very good financial stewards, I think. We've raised £4.9 million only, and we've discovered some globally significant deposits of both tin and lithium. We're very serious stewards of the environment. We've got a 100% success rate on our remediation, on our drill holes. We have good social license. We're on good terms with many of our neighbours. A significant number have invested in the company quite separately. So I think we're well placed to take advantage of the upturn that I think is definitely coming. We agree with the consensus, I think, that tin is definitely going to be in deficit by 2028. I don't know what anybody else thinks, but I think it's a great time to be starting off with a tin project. So many thanks for your attention.